The Time Tunnel, 1966, wasn't just another science fiction series. It was the most expensive show ever made that bankrupted its own studio.
We did, in fact, use 7 different structures to create the one building.
The two leads despised each other throughout filming. Episodes were banned in multiple states for historical controversy. And the finale they aired wasn't a finale at all. These are 15 facts about the series that spent $4 million on a pilot and never brought its heroes home. Most expensive television series ever produced at that time, Irwin Allen created The Time Tunnel with an unprecedented budget of $4 million for the pilot episode alone. No television pilot had ever cost that much. Most entire series didn't cost $4 million for a full season. ABC gave Allen creative freedom after his success with Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and Lost in Space. Allen built the massive time tunnel set, a spiraling corridor lined with blinking lights and equipment at a cost of $250,000. It was the largest standing television set ever constructed in 1966. Regular episodes cost approximately $250,000 each, double the typical television budget. The series' total first season cost exceeded $8 million. ABC executives grew nervous immediately. They'd invested massive amounts expecting huge ratings. The show performed well, but not spectacularly. Financial pressures doomed the series from the start. James Darren and Robert Colbert hated each other throughout production. James Darren and Robert Colbert, who played scientists Tony Newman and Doug Phillips, developed intense personal animosity during filming. Their off-screen relationship was completely opposite from their on-screen friendship. Darren, a former teen idol and singer, resented being cast in what he considered cheap science fiction. Colbert, a journeyman actor grateful for steady work, found Darren's attitude unprofessional and arrogant. The two men barely spoke between takes. Their dressing rooms were deliberately placed on opposite sides of the studio. Director Sobey Martin had to film them separately for certain scenes and edit the footage together. Cast members recalled the hostile atmosphere created by their mutual dislike. Ironically, their forced professionalism created convincing on-screen chemistry. ABC censored multiple episodes for violence and historical accuracy. ABC's Standards and Practices Department heavily censored the time tunnel throughout its run. The episode Massacre, depicting Custer's last stand, was deemed too violent and required extensive editing before broadcast. Graphic scenes of cavalry soldiers being killed were cut entirely. The episode The Alamo created controversy when historical consultants complained about inaccuracies. ABC forced rewrites that sanitized Jim Bowie and Davy Crockett's deaths. The Death Trap episode showing a First World War execution was almost pulled completely. Network censors believed firing squad footage was inappropriate for family viewing. Irwin Allen fought these changes constantly, arguing historical events shouldn't be whitewashed. ABC refused to compromise. The network was particularly sensitive about violence in 1966, following public criticism of television content. Multiple episodes aired in severely edited versions that frustrated Allen. Some deleted footage was never restored. The time tunnel set was recycled from The Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. The elaborate underground time tunnel complex wasn't built from scratch. Irwin Allen recycled sets, props, and equipment from his other series to save money. The control room panels came from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea's submarine set. Blinking lights and computer banks appeared in both shows. The spiral time tunnel itself was the only completely new construction. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed identical equipment appearing in multiple Irwin Allen productions. The practice became so obvious that jokes circulated about Allen's traveling props. Lee Merriweather, who played Dr. Ann McGregor, recalled seeing the same control panel she'd worked with on other shows. Series creator Irwin Allen never wanted. Two protagonists. The original concept featured a single scientist trapped in time. ABC executives demanded two leads, believing dual protagonists would appeal to broader audiences. Irwin Allen reluctantly agreed, but never embraced the change. He consistently favored James Darren's Tony Newman in scripts and screen time. Robert Colbert's Doug Phillips received less dialogue and fewer heroic moments. This imbalance frustrated Colbert, who felt like a supporting character despite equal billing. Allen admitted in interviews he found writing for two time travelers awkward and limiting. He believed one scientist would have stronger dramatic possibilities. The dual protagonist structure forced repetitive rescue scenarios and split focus between characters. Allen never solved this structural echtast. Problem during the series' 30-episode run. The series was canceled despite strong ratings. The Time Tunnel averaged 30 million viewers per episode during its single season, ranking in the top 30 programs. By any reasonable metric, this represented success. ABC canceled it anyway in March 1967. The reason was purely financial. Each episode cost $250,000, far exceeding what ABC could earn from advertising revenue. The network needed shows that were both popular and profitable. The Time Tunnel was only popular. ABC's Business Affairs Department calculated they were losing money on every episode despite good ratings. The network offered renewal if Irwin Allen accepted a drastically reduced budget of $150,000 per episode. Allen refused, believing he couldn't maintain quality with such cuts. ABC canceled immediately. Whit Bissell played three different historical characters. Besides Dr. Swain, Whit Bissell appeared as time tunnel scientist Dr. Raymond Swain in every episode. However, he also played historical figures in 3 separate episodes when the production couldn't afford additional guest actors. Budget constraints forced this bizarre creative choice. Bissell portrayed a Confederate officer, a Roman senator, and a First World War general in different episodes. The show made minimal effort to disguise him. Viewers noticed immediately and found it absurd. TV Guide published a sarcastic article about Bissell's time-traveling ancestors. Irwin Allen defended the practice, claiming historical research suggested many people shared similar facial features. Nobody bought this explanation. Cast members found the situation embarrassing. The Titanic episode used actual survivor testimony for dialogue. The 2-part episode Rendezvous with Yesterday, depicting the Titanic's sinking, incorporated dialogue taken directly from survivor testimony. Writer Shimon Winselberg researched congressional hearing transcripts and survivor memoirs extensively. Several conversations between characters quoted actual statements made by Titanic passengers and crew. The episode's depiction of the ship's final moments followed documented timeline of events with unusual accuracy for 1966 television. Titanic Historical Society consultants praised the episode's attention to detail. However, they criticized certain fictional elements added for drama. The episode showed Tony and Doug trying to convince the captain about the iceberg, which never happened. Despite fictional additions, the episode remains one of the more historically accurate Titanic dramatizations of that era. It aired September 9th, 1966, and became the series' highest-rated episode with 37 million viewers. Special effects team included Future Star Wars. Effects pioneer L.B. Bill Abbott led the Time Tunnel's special effects team. His crew included a young effects assistant named John Dykstra, who later revolutionized visual effects for Star Wars. Dykstra learned critical optical printing and miniature photography techniques working on the Time Tunnel. The series used extensive stock footage combined with new miniature photography and matte paintings. Abbott's team created the swirling time vortex effect using a spinning painted disc filmed through rippled glass. The technique was simple but effective for 1966 television. Budget limitations forced creative solutions that taught Dykstra valuable lessons about maximizing limited resources. He credited the time tunnel experience with preparing him for the technical challenges of Star Wars a decade later. Abbott won multiple Emmy Awards for his work. The series' visual effects were consistently praised despite the show's other problems. The Pearl Harbor episode was nearly canceled due to Japanese protests. The episode, The Day the Sky Fell In, depicting the Pearl Harbor attack, created international controversy before it even aired. When ABC announced the episode's production, Japanese government officials protested through diplomatic channels. They argued the episode would damage US-Japan relations and reopen wartime wounds. Peace advocacy groups in both countries urged ABC to cancel the episode. The network seriously considered pulling it. Irwin Allen fought to keep the episode, arguing it portrayed both sides sympathetically. A BC demanded extensive script revisions to soften anti-Japanese elements. The final version emphasized the tragedy affecting both Americans and Japanese. Despite precautions, the episode generated angry letters when it aired December 11, 1966, exactly 25 years after the attack. ABC refused to air the Billy the Kid episode in certain markets. The episode Billy the Kid created unexpected censorship problems when it aired November 25, 1966. A BC affiliates in New Mexico and Texas refused to broadcast it. These stations believed the episode portrayed Billy the Kid too sympathetically and contradicted local historical narratives. New Mexico particularly objected because Billy the Kid remains a controversial figure in state history. Some view him as a folk hero, others as a murderer. The episode depicted him as a misunderstood youth driven to violence by circumstances. This interpretation angered viewers who preferred traditional outlaw narratives. ABC allowed local stations to substitute a rerun rather than force the episode. The controversy generated newspaper coverage in affected markets. Ironically, this publicity made the episode more popular in regions where it did air. The incident highlighted regional sensitivities about historical interpretation that networks hadn't anticipated. The series finale resolved nothing and ended on a cliffhanger. The final episode, Town of Terror, aired April 7, 1967, with no resolution to Tony and Doug's predicament. They remained trapped in time, jumping from one historical crisis to another. Irwin Allen had been informed of the cancellation months earlier, but made no attempt to provide closure. He hoped ABC might reconsider renewal and didn't want to write a definitive ending. The finale ended with Tony and Doug materializing in their next adventure, identical to every other episode. Viewers who'd invested 30 weeks expecting the scientists would eventually return home received no payoff. The abrupt non-ending infuriated fans. Letter-writing campaigns demanding a conclusion flooded ABC for months. The network ignored them. Allen later claimed he'd written a reunion movie script that would have brought Tony and Doug home. ABC never expressed interest. The series ended without resolution. Stock footage made up over 40% of many episodes. Budget constraints forced extensive use of stock footage from 20th Century Fox's film library. Some episodes contained more stock footage than originally filmed material. The Titanic episode used footage from the 1953 film Titanic. The Pearl Harbor episode incorporated documentary footage and clips from Tora, battle sequences, crowd scenes, and establishing shots came from existing Fox films. Editor Harry Gerstad became expert at matching new footage with decades-old stock material. The practice saved enormous amounts of money, but created inconsistencies. Film quality varied wildly between crisp new footage and grainy stock material. Careful viewers noticed the same explosion appearing in multiple episodes. The stock footage reliance exemplified how financial pressures compromised the show's quality. Despite these limitations, editors managed to create reasonably convincing historical settings. The technique became standard for Irwin Allen Productions. Alternate ending. Irwin Allen wrote but never produced a proper series finale titled Return to the Future. The script showed Tony and Doug finally returning to their own time after discovering the time tunnel's control weakness. However, their return created a devastating paradox. Because they'd altered multiple historical events, their timeline no longer existed. They materialized in a present completely different from the one they'd left. Dr. Anne McGregor didn't recognize them. The Time Tunnel Project never existed. Tony and Doug realized they were now trapped in an alternate timeline as strangers. The script ended ambiguously, suggesting they might need to jump through time again to restore the original timeline. ABC rejected the script as too downbeat and complicated for family television. The Time Tunnel could have been television's greatest science fiction adventure with clever time travel and a satisfying conclusion. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about runaway budgets and network interference. The real ending was rejected, the conflicts never healed, and two scientists remained trapped in time because the money ran out. Some journeys never find their way home.